A chunk of rose quartz just sold for $180 at a shop that smells like a yoga studio caught fire. The woman behind the counter explained that this particular stone holds feminine energy. She was wearing a flowing linen skirt and spoke in a voice so soft it could put a podcast to sleep. And honestly, the rock did look pretty sitting on that reclaimed wood shelf next to a $40 candle. Welcome to the spiritual wellness economy, where geology meets therapy meets a markup that would make a diamond dealer blush. Somewhere along the way, an entire generation decided that the answer to existential dread was a mineral. The same mineral, by the way, that you can find in bulk on any hiking trail in the American Southwest. Free. Just sitting there on the ground, holding all sorts of energy presumably. But you can't just pick up a rock. That would be too simple. The rock has to come from a curated shop with exposed brick walls and a playlist that's 60% Tibetan singing bowls. It has to arrive in a cloth pouch with a card explaining its properties. Rose quartz for love, amethyst for clarity, black tourmaline for protection, citrine for abundance. Each stone comes with a promise so specific it sounds like a horoscope written by a real estate agent. And the prices. The prices deserve their own category of satire. A small amethyst cluster runs you about $40 to $70. A geode the size of a toaster, $300. A large cathedral amethyst geode, the kind that sits in the corner of a Brooklyn apartment like a geological shrine, can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $15,000. For context, you can buy a running car for $15,000. The car will take you places. The geode will sit in your living room and collect dust while transmuting negative vibrations. Rose quartz, though, is the real star of this economy. It's the stone of unconditional love, according to every crystal shop website that uses the same 3 paragraphs of copy. Heartbroken? Rose quartz. Struggling with self-worth? Rose quartz. Want to attract a partner? Rose quartz, but make sure you charge it under the full moon first, because apparently the moon is a wireless charger for rocks. The charging ritual alone is worth examining. People are placing stones on their windowsills during specific lunar phases, burying them in salt, running them under cold water, and leaving them in sunlight. But only certain stones, because some stones fade in sunlight. And now you need a chart to remember which mystical object can handle basic weather. It's a maintenance schedule. For a rock, your grandmother had a garden. You have a selenite tower that can't get wet. Selenite, the diva of the crystal world. Selenite wands are sold as energy clearing tools. You wave them around your body or your room, and they supposedly dissolve negative energy. They retail for $20 to $60 depending on size. Selenite is a form of gypsum. Gypsum is what drywall is made of. You are waving drywall around your apartment to fix your vibes. The universe has a sense of humor, and it's dry. The shops selling these items have perfected an aesthetic so consistent it might as well be franchised. White walls, dried flowers, a small fountain trickling in the corner. Everything is ethically sourced, though if you ask where exactly the amethyst came from, the answer gets vague fast. Most commercial amethyst comes from mines in Brazil and Uruguay. The mining conditions are rarely discussed in the product description, which is too busy explaining that amethyst opens your third eye to mention that it was extracted by underpaid workers in an open pit. And that brings us to Palo Santo, which might be the most perfectly ironic product in the entire spiritual marketplace. Palo Santo is a wood from South America that, when burned, produces a sweet woody smoke traditionally used in indigenous ceremonies. The wellness industry discovered it around 2015 and demand exploded. The tree takes decades to mature. Ethical harvesting means collecting only naturally fallen wood. The tree has to die on its own before the wood develops its aromatic oils. Demand outpaced supply almost immediately. So what happened? Illegal logging. Trees cut down alive, which defeats the entire spiritual purpose. The very people burning Palo Santo to cleanse their space were funding the destruction of the forest that produced it. A closed loop of irony so tight it could power a small turbine. The sage situation follows a similar arc, with an extra layer of cultural complexity. White sage, used in smudging ceremonies by indigenous peoples for centuries, became a wellness trend. Demand spiked. Wild populations of white sage came under pressure. And then the discourse arrived. Who gets to burn sage? And who's appropriating a sacred practice to make their studio apartment smell like a campsite? The debate generated thousands of think pieces and exactly zero resolution. Crystal shops responded by offering ethically harvested sage bundles, sometimes with a small note acknowledging indigenous traditions. The notes were printed on recycled paper, because if you're going to borrow someone's spiritual practice, you should at least be environmentally conscious about it. Meanwhile, the actual ceremonies these tools come from involve community, lineage, and decades of transmitted knowledge. The wellness version involves a lighter, a TikTok tutorial, and a ceramic dish from Target. Same tools. Completely different universe. The pricing psychology across this industry is a masterwork. Cheap crystals exist. You can buy a bag of tumbled stones for $10, but the shops know that cheap feels less powerful. A $100 crystal must work better than a $10 crystal, right? It's the same logic that sells $300 face cream. The price is the product. You're buying the feeling that you invested in yourself, and the stone is just the receipt. This is where the parallel to religion becomes impossible to ignore. Crystals offer what organized religion used to provide: ritual, community, a sense that the universe has structure and meaning. The crystal shop is the new chapel, the full moon charging ritual is the new prayer, the amethyst geode is the new crucifix, and the woman behind the counter, softly explaining the difference between raw and polished crystals, is performing a role that priests and shamans have performed for thousands of years. The difference is that churches have potlucks and community service projects. Crystal culture has subscription boxes. There's a subscription box for crystals. Several, actually. For $30 to $50 a month, a curated selection of stones arrives at your door with intention cards and care instructions. You are subscribing to rocks, monthly rocks. The Earth formed these over millions of years, and they're being distributed on the same model as eternal beef jerky. Critics of crystal culture, scientists, mostly point out that no peer-reviewed study has ever demonstrated that crystals produce measurable energy fields that interact with human biology, and they're right. The mineral composition of rose quartz does nothing to your cardiovascular system. Amethyst has no documented effect on cognitive function. Selenite cannot clear electromagnetic pollution from your apartment, but here's the thing that makes dismissal too easy and therefore unsatisfying. The placebo effect is real and measurable. People who believe their crystal helps them sleep often do sleep better. People who meditate holding a stone in their palm report genuine calm. The ritual itself, the intention setting, the breathing, the quiet moment with an object, has value. The rock is a prop. The meditation is the medicine, and the markup is the cost of packaging mindfulness in a way that photographs well. The industry knows this. Every crystal shop that survives more than 2 years eventually pivots toward workshops, sound baths, and community events. The crystals become the gateway drug. The real product is belonging. The real revenue is the $75 Saturday afternoon session where 12 people lie on yoga mats while someone plays a singing bowl and everyone pretends they had a vision. Some people genuinely find healing in these spaces. That matters, and mocking it entirely would be cheap. The loneliness epidemic is real. Therapy has year-long wait lists. Traditional religious institutions have spent decades alienating the exact demographic that now fills crystal shops. If someone finds peace holding a $60 piece of labradorite, the stone worked just through a mechanism that has nothing to do with the stone. The uncomfortable question is who profits from that need? The crystal industry generates billions globally. The supply chain runs from mines in Madagascar, Congo, and Brazil, through middlemen and wholesalers, to the softly lit shop where a stone gets a name, a story, and a 900% markup. Someone is mining these stones for wages that wouldn't cover a single candle in the shop that sells them. And the customer? She's holding a piece of citrine to her chest, eyes closed, setting an intention for abundance. The citrine was pulled from the earth by a man who earns less in a month than the stone costs on the shelf. The intention for abundance flows in one direction only. That might be the most honest thing about the entire industry. Every generation finds a way to dress up consumption as enlightenment. Cathedrals had gold altars funded by tithes from peasants. Crystal shops have amethyst cathedrals funded by direct deposit. The architecture is smaller, the impulse is ancient. Your grandmother kept a smooth stone in her pocket for 40 years. She found it on a beach the day she married your grandfather. She never charged it under the moon. She never looked up its properties. She just held it when she missed him. It was worth nothing. It was worth everything, and she never needed anyone to explain the difference.